Alright, so we're going to kick off this series with the attitude of the mind. I think as far as a definition, what I remember, an attitude is a settled way of thinking or feeling about something. A settled way. You can be settled right or you can be settled wrong. It's just attitude. I remember getting a quote in my teenage years. Very, very powerful. It says, there's a little difference between all of us. The little difference makes a big difference. The little difference is attitude. The big difference is whether it's positive or negative. And you've heard, our attitude is what determines our altitude. So it's very, very important that you understand. You can have a lot of talent. I've seen so many people, great talent. They're very competent. They know exactly how to do the job. But when you have a poor attitude, what happens is that relationships break down around you and people can't connect. And I can tell you, there's nothing that you really want to succeed at and fail at relationships. Relationships are more important than accomplishments. When you have an attitude or what I call stinking thinking, where you need a checkup from the neck up, people do not want to be around you. So when you talk about a mental attitude, you have to learn, hey, how do I see the glass? Do I see the glass half filled? Or do I see the glass half empty? A positive mental attitude learns to see the good. They acknowledge the things that are not working well, but they have a positive twist on things. The book says, brethren, I wish that you, in one sense, after you've submitted your requests and you made it known, the Bible says it gives you a peace, right? You get a peace that passes all understanding. But it says, hey, here's what I want you to do. Whatsoever things are good, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are have any virtue, if there be any praise, if there's been a good report, think on these things. Feed your mind on these type of things. Why? It's going to change the way or your perspective on how you see things, the angle of how you see things. A positive mental attitude is very important to your success. You cannot have stinking thinking and fail forward. You will always be able to move through some of the toughest times in your life when you have a positive mental attitude. There's the power of positive thinking. I think it's by Norman Vincent Peale or one of the authors. But you can go and look at that book and you get very positive stuff. My dad always says, look, if you want to change your thinking or become positive, read a book called Philippians. It's actually found in the book called the Bible. It has 66 books in there. One of those books is called Philippians. It will help you to train your attitude. A good way to find out about your mental attitude is to ask the people around you. What I call do a 360-degree assessment of yourself. Ask people who look up to you. Ask people who look at you. Ask people who you look up to and say, tell me, I wouldn't be offended. Tell me, what do you think about my attitude? What do you think about my mental attitude? How do you see me? And just listen. It's a good way to get a check of how people see you. When you come around people, what type of energy do you bring? When you come into a space, what type of energy do you bring? It comes back to your attitude. Attitude is very important to your life. Sometimes I hear people say, well, this is who I am and I'm not going to change. That's a type of attitude. And if you're not going to change, for things to change in your life, you must change. So when you get stuck, and you say, this is how I am, I'm not going to change, then when life requires you to become more, because you have to be more so that you can do more, so that you can have more. When you want to have more, and it requires you to do more, which stems from you becoming more, but you says, this is who I am, so if being is stuck, then doing is stuck, then having is stuck. You cannot grow beyond who you are. You'll never get greater results than your thinking. The book says, as a man thinketh, so is he. So I encourage you today as we go through this series, check up from the neck up. How is my mental attitude? How have I settled the way of thinking or feeling about the certain things that are in my life? And look, if you're settled in a good way, you get consistent good results. But if you're settled in your thinking in a bad way, you'll get consistent negative results. Looking forward to seeing you on the next module where we really talk about the growth of the mind, the growth of the mind, the growth of the mind, how we have to make growth intentional. be on the inside.